Sri Akal Ji. Before we start, let us all remember and pay our deepest respects to our beloved Satguru, whose Prakash Divas we are celebrating today. Please repeat after me, Dhan Sri Satguru Ram Singh Ji. And let us all pay our sincere and deepest respects to our beloved Satguru, who gave us the happiness of the world through his divine blessings and love. Sat Sangat Ji, please repeat after me, Dhan Sri Satguru Jagjit Singh Ji. Today, we have all gathered here to celebrate the 200th Avatar Divas of His Holiness Sri Satguru Ram Singh Ji Akal Purakh. Satguru Ram Singh Ji is the 12th Guru of the Namdharis, whose arrival every Namdhari around the world awaits for. With his divine presence and endless blessings, the motherland of India got independence in the recent past from the treacherous rule of the British Empire, and in the near future, it is definite that the whole world will experience supreme bliss on the arrival of our beloved Sri Satguru Ram Singh Ji. Therefore, this day of Basant Panchami marks great significance to us all, as this was the day the Almighty incarnated in human form for the establishment of Dharma, righteousness, and the protection of the entire universe in the form of His Holiness Sri Satguru Ram Singh Sache Pasha Ji. Taking this opportunity, I would like to welcome all our honorable guests and the entire Sat Sangat for joining us on this auspicious occasion. We also have in our midst the very respectable Hazuri Ragis of Sri Satguru Jagjit Singh Ji, Sant Balwant Singh Ji, and Sant Harpreet Singh Ji from Sri Bhaini Sahib. On behalf of all the Sat Sangat, I warmly welcome you. Satguru Ram Singh Ji was born in the year 1816 in Raiya, in the holy land of Sri Bhaini Sahib, Punjab, to father Sardar Jassa Singh Ji and mother Mata Sada Kaur Ji. His divine birth itself was extraordinary, as his holy infant body didn't come from his mother's womb, but instead appeared miraculously on the soil of his house beside his mother's bedside. Satguruji got his early education at Bhaini Sahib in Gurumukhi and Gurbani. He joined the Khalsa army and served for several years under Kanwar Naunihal Singh, grandson of Maharaja Ranjit Singh Ji. While serving in the army, he came across Satguru Balak Singh Ji, the 11th Guru of the Namdharis. Satguru Balak Singh Ji recognized him and conveyed his long-awaited expectation for him, and then performed the formal holy ceremony by offering 5 paise and a coconut to Satguru Ram Singh Ji, thus vesting him with the Gurgaddi, the sacred leadership of the Sikhs. Furthermore, Satguru Balak Singh Ji had ordered all his disciples to obey the commands of their new Satguru henceforth. After leaving the army in 1845, Satguru Ram Singh Ji returned to Sri Bhaini Sahib and engaged himself in deep meditation for about 20 years. It was in the last year that His Holiness had commanded by the Almighty Supreme Lord to devote himself to the message of Guru Gobind Singh Ji and guide the people to follow the spiritual path of truth and religion. After Guru Gobind Singh Ji, Sikhism had passed through many turbulences and difficulties. During the early 1800s, the Sikhs had lost their character and had abandoned their original unity and purity. At that time, Punjab presented a disreputable picture of disunity, lawlessness, deceit, treachery, and anarchy. Taking advantage of the prevailing situation, the British invaded Punjab and brought it under its control. They introduced their own laws, which were detrimental to the interests of the local people in India. The British started interfering with the religious affairs of the Sikhs and began both distorting and twisting Sikh history and fundamental beliefs. Satguru Ram Singh Ji was deeply disappointed and aggrieved to see such injustices being executed by the British on his people. Furthermore, His Holiness could find only 2.5 Sikhs who could be categorized as the true followers of Sikhism. Satguru Ram Singh Ji knew that the country could not be revived from the chains of slavery unless he gave superiority to religious and social reforms as dominant principles towards the ultimate goal of freedom. Thus, Sadhguruji went back to the original teachings of Guru Nanak Dev Ji and Guru Gobind Singh Ji and introduced the Sant Khalsa, where a new divine panth was created, a pure and beautiful panth called Namdhari. Sache Pasha Ji baptized every Sikh with the sacred nectar known as Amrit and blessed all his Sikhs with the holy Guru Mantra in their ears. Sadhguruji motivated all his Sikhs to meditate on and chant the Almighty's name and also recite the Gurbani, in all practicing what he preached, to live a very simple and truthful life. His Holiness decided to uplift the women in social, cultural, and religious spheres and banned the practices of sati, infanticide, child marriage, trading in girls, borrowing, lies, adultery, stealing, and also banned the consumption of meat, alcohol, and cow slaughter. He also set up a new and simple tradition for marriage, abolished dowry, caste system, and slavery. Satguru Ram Singh Ji launched his holy war against the British Empire on 12 April 1857 by hoisting a white flag of freedom and announced a program of far-reaching significance. He gave a clarion call to the people to use non-cooperation in order to boycott government services, British-run educational institutions, law courts, boycott foreign-made goods, and hence defy British laws. His fight for independence was a turning point in world history, for it eventually sounded the death knell of colonial rule of the British Empire. However, with the incidents and supreme sacrifices made by the Sikhs at Amritsar, Raikot, and Malerkotla, the British government named Namdharis as rebels and ordered the exile of Satguru Ram Singh Ji from Punjab. Then, His Holiness was shifted to Calcutta, leading up further to Rangoon. However, years before his banishment from Sri Bhaini Sahib, Sadhguruji made a prophecy to all his Sikhs, saying, "The government will falsely declare me dead. The fire cannot burn me and water cannot drown me. I will come back in the same form. Do not ever believe that I am dead." Satguru Ram Singh Ji has a predicted lifespan of 250 years. After the time of his exile to Rangoon, up till today, many Sikhs, some of whom are sitting here amongst us, and even non-Namdharis, have discreetly got the blessed darshan of Satguru Ram Singh Ji. Slowly, with time, as the world gets more involved with materialistic values, one unconsciously walks away from spiritualism and Sikhi. However, if it takes one step for an individual to fall down away from Sikhi, on the other hand, a tiny step of encouragement and willpower can also take us up towards the holy charan of His Holiness, our Almighty Lord. We are all humans. We will excel one day, and we will make mistakes another day. We rise some days, and we fall some days, meaning that in this world, we are all part of the cycle of karma. However, we shouldn't lose hope and have complete faith in our Sadguru. Materialistic wants and desires will never give us complete happiness. The only day we will get supreme happiness and endless bliss will be the day we get the blessed darshan of Satguru Ram Singh Ji. So Sat Sangat Ji, let us all do ardas and pray for his darshan in order to obtain that happiness and establish infinite peace to this chaotic world. Again, please repeat after me, Tan Sri Satguru Ram Singh Ji. Tan Sri Satguru Jagjit Singh Ji.